Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
So if you're feeling a funk, things are just kind of weird right now, we're going to give you the reason why. We talked about this over the last couple of weeks. It's that thing called the retrograde. Now, I want to call it the Mercury retrograde, but there are other planets that have gone retrograde. This is all about astrology. Astrology is a science. For those of you that think this is all woo-woo, maybe not so much. And she's been studying it for years and years and years. She's an accomplished author, speaker, mentor, and she's I want to make sure I have this term right, social astrologer. What would you call it with your background of the psychology, shall we say?
Yeah, like a psychological astrologer.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. Carmen Turner-Schott is with us. And welcome back. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? How are you doing?
Good. Just trying to, like anybody else, navigate this. And everybody is telling me the same thing at different times. Like, I don't know what's going on. Like, I feel weird. And, communication is kind of strange. And I mean, that's normal for a retrograde, but this one more impactful because other planets are retrograde, right?
Definitely. Everyone I've talked to, I mean, just people, I was on a podcast yesterday, they said that they went out by the ocean and they just got emotional and started crying. They don't even know why they were crying. And I said, just let it out, because that tends to happen when the energies of the moon and the planets affect us. And when a planet's retrograde, which we have a bunch of them retrograde right now. Jupiter just went retrograde. You know, we have Mercury retrograde, which is the planet of communication, and it has to do with technology, all that. So it's wreaking havoc. But Jupiter going retrograde, and then there's a lot of other planets retrograde, the outer planets. And so they're all going to go direct pretty soon. I think next month Pluto goes direct. So Pluto's retrograde. So all these very powerful planets in our solar system are spinning backwards. And what that does is it everyone's feeling it, because it's like the energy's turned inward. So instead of going, the energy flowing like it should, we're in the flow, thinking of it, as the chakras, or, when they're blocked, or, anything, pipes. I mean, everything's kind of blocked. And so people are feeling it in their body. They're tired. They're not feeling physically well. Like, I know I've been wanting to take naps and I never nap, and I'm like just exhausted, and, and just feeling really kind of anxious. That's the word I've been saying. Like, I feel like something's going to happen, and I don't like this feeling. Like I told my husband the other day, I feel like I just feel on edge, and what it is all these retrogrades. So Jupiter, the big thing with Jupiter is it's the planet of good luck and good fortune, but it's a planet of expansion and growth. So it's it's a positive planet, the planet of optimism, all this stuff, but it started spinning backwards on September 3rd, and it's in the sign Taurus. And so there's a lot of astrologers, and you can look it up online, that are predicting financial things going on in the world, like a financial crisis. And this retrograde will last until the end of December this year. So there's a lot going to happen. They're predicting with money and finance, and anything with homes, like land, your home, leases, mortgages, banks, anything with finance, because Taurus rules the second house of money and finance in astrology.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I was thinking that Mercury retrograde, the middle of September, we're past it. You got the post phase. All right.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So
now we have this. Yeah.
So the finance thing, thinking about homes, land, things like that, interest rates are insanely high right now, like 7%. Where we are in these parts in the New York area, you can't even buy a home because there's no inventory. Wow. There's just no inventory. I hear that around other parts of the country. Yes. That being said, how do you think that Jupiter, is it Jupiter you mentioned? How is that going to affect that situation?
Well, from what I know about astrology, this is my gut instinct. And then, I've talked to some others that have told me their prediction, but there's going to be a lot of people that can't pay their mortgages. There's going to be a lot of, we call it leases up, people, foreclosures. There's going to be a lot of stuff because, everything's been so high. People can't afford to buy. So it's like people that did buy, they bought for high price and a lot higher than these houses are worth, and so
Do you think though, do you think that house prices are going to plummet?
I think that they're gonna yes, during this Jupiter retrograde in Taurus, yes, there's going to be value because the second house in Taurus rules value. So the value of things is going to be impacted.
Mm,
And this is
wow.
huge. And it's kind of scary because, I've talked to people lately that got in over their head with land and building homes and they didn't realize how expensive it was and they start building and now they can't afford to finish building and you can see this kind of going on and I'm kind of happy that we didn't end up buying some land. We were looking to buy land. This was like 2-3 months ago and it was interesting because we were going to buy it. I mean, when we saw the pictures, we are like, okay, we're gonna buy it and maybe build in a couple years or something. Went and looked at it with the realtor. We find out the pictures were the wrong pictures and the price was triple what we thought it was.
Oh my
So like, no,
gosh.
never mind. So we kind of walked away, right? And I'm glad we didn't buy that. We looked at each other this week. I told my husband what about Jupiter retrograde, and he's like, "Well, that's good." He's like, and we shouldn't have two mortgages, at the same time, and he always talks about Clark Howard, he listens to that stuff. And so I'm like, yeah, I said, because he's wanting to buy a truck. And I'm like, well, don't buy anything right now because Mercury's retrograde. You don't want to buy anything new. You don't want to sign anything, but we also are going to be experience this Jupiter retrograde until the end of December. And so that's not a good time, with the holidays and wanting to buy people presents. And I think that we're going to see this in the news. I mean, I think things are going to start, they're going to be talking about it. I just saw it on the news yesterday. They're talking about the financial crisis. Like it was like all of a sudden they're talking about all this stuff that's Taurus retrograde, right?
Wow. And
I know.
a year ago, I sold a house and I put an offer on one, was ready to buy another one. And I listened to my gut and I thought, it value wise didn't make sense. Rooms weren't large enough. It just didn't make sense. So I pulled the deal. And at that time, again, only a year ago, it was like a feeding frenzy in terms of homes. Like there was like 30 people lined up to buy
Wow.
one house. It was a crazy time in this area.
Yeah.
So now I'm renting, it's pricey, but it's a in between situation. But
Yeah.
based on what you're saying, it's like, all right, in my brain, tap the brakes and just kind of ride it out a little bit longer.
I would wait. I would wait. And that's what I'm kind of saying too. Let's just wait until and see what happens with this Jupiter retrograde because it's a big deal. It's in Taurus, value, money, finance. It's going to affect all of those things and everyone in the world. And we can already see it. I mean, people just can't afford to buy. And then, in a couple years ago, people were offering over the asking price for houses.
Well, yes.
It was crazy.
And for that, I'm thankful because I sold my house right at the edge. Like it was like literally at the edge. And then like a month later, prices started dropping, and I wouldn't have gotten what I got for it. Wow. What else can we expect in terms of retrogrades of planets in the next couple of weeks, months?
Yeah. So with Pluto and Saturn and Uranus, all these, retrograde planets and Jupiter, it's just a time to self-care. Like just take care of you and just kind of withdraw and take time. Just if you feel like doing it, don't beat yourself up. If you don't feel like doing anything, just relax. Cancel those plans you've had if you're not feeling up to it. And I just tell people, trust your gut instinct. Because, if you force yourself to do something, it doesn't feel right, then, that's when you're going to have these strange things happen, these unexpected things. And how to really know how these retrogrades are going to be affecting you is to really have your birth chart and to be able to see where they're transiting, right? What area of life are they messing with for each of us, right? And so like Jupiter retrograde in Taurus is in my 8th house. And I just went through a Jupiter return. I have Jupiter natally in my 8th house. So it's been a hard year, like emotionally, and just a lot of loss. I've lost a lot of friends and loved ones that passed away unexpectedly, like very young, just unexpected. And so I'm like, I'm ready for some good luck and good fortune. But with Jupiter there, it's like financial debt. There's going to be, it's going to affect my money. And it has. I've been spending a lot to market, my business and my books and everything. And so I'm like, yep, I'm in the hole financially right now. But hopefully, I got to be a little bit more careful with finances, because the 8th house is your money, other people's resources, your partner's money, because it's the opposite of the 2nd house. So 2nd and 8th house both kind of in money and finance and business. And anything with the business world and stocks, all that is Taurus. And so, I mean, I think it's interesting on Wall Street, they have, isn't it a bull is the symbol? That's the astrological symbol of money in astrology, is the Taurus, the bull. I mean, I thought that was cool.
I wonder if that was intentional way back in the day.
It probably was, because someone knew astrology, because I'm like, you see the bull with the horns, and down in Washington. I walked by it when I went to New York years ago, and I'm like, this is really cool.
Now you mentioned passings personally in your life.
Oh, yes.
As I'm looking at all of this now, we're in this retrograde, and then celebrity passings, Jimmy Buffett, Gary Wright, who did the song Dreamweaver and Love Is Alive from the 70s, Steve Harwell from the band Smash Mouth, all passed away within a week of each other in the past week. Do you think it's connected to the retrograde that they were dealing with issues anyway, but do you think it all happened because of the retrograde?
The retrogrades definitely spur anything that's already going on, because if you've been holding on to stuff and you have different things you haven't healed or expressed or dealt with, they're going to be intensified. So and I can see that in my life right now. My grandfather's he's having a lot of health stuff right now. It just started last week, and I didn't even know he was in the hospital for a day, and my mother hadn't told me. He got to go back home, or back to the assisted living, and he's like amazing. I mean, he's tough. I mean, he's been through a lot, and now he's really not doing so well. He went through pneumonia, COVID this year. He's 88. I mean, he just went through all this stuff, and he's always came out of it. And he's really not doing so well right now. So, I'm going to go visit him on Sunday and see him. And I haven't been home in a while. And but I was looking at his chart, and he's got a lot of retrogrades messing with his health house. I was looking, and that makes sense, because his health stuff's kind of coming up. And I'm like, if we can just, get past these retrogrades, I think, he'll feel better. And so I told him, just hang in there, everyone, if you have sciatic nerve or back pain, it can be triggered. That's what's going on with him too. And other people I know, they're having like these physical complaints. My husband came home the other day, and he's like, and that can happen, he's a Virgo too. So Mercury retrograde tends to, we're hypochondriacs a bit. Virgos are very health conscious, and we don't want to get sick. We're kind of germ phobes. And so, we are. And he came home, he's like, I'm worried about getting COVID. And, and he's a nurse, and he's like, and my heel hurts. Every time I walk, my heel is in pain. I think I hurt my heel. And I'm like, oh no. So, everyone I'm talking to this week has had all of these.
I just made a doctor's appointment. for something that's been floating out there, reoccurring, whatever. I was like, I'm going to do it today. Made it. Fortunately, it was very easy to make the appointment, but I'm a Virgo, right? So, and it's so funny you talk about germaphobe. Before this thing, COVID, like a decade before, I was made fun of all the time because of hand sanitizer. I would, my kids, when they were little, they would get in the car and like, give me hands.
Yep. Yeah.
I've actually relaxed a lot of that, because as you learn, because of COVID, there's new research out there that you need to be exposed to germs. We know that. So I've relaxed a little bit of the germiness, but you don't want to ease up too much. And yes, COVID is on the upswing, and they are predicting that COVID is really going to elevate, not to the levels of where it was, but in the first quarter of next year.
I know. I'm like, I'm worried about traveling, and I don't really want to travel, but if I do, I may wear my mask on the plane, my N95 or whatever. Hey, listen, I don't want to get sick, and I got to be healthy to work and travel for my job. So, but it's interesting, because a lot of Virgos I know, And they are. I mean, they worry about getting, sick and stuff. And when I first, met my husband, he's a nurse, but he used to take like 2 or 3 showers a day. And I
Wow.
thought it was a little odd. And I thought, and I pointed out, he doesn't really do that as much anymore, but and what it was, he grew up on a farm. And so he always felt like he smelled, he always felt like he needed a shower. And it was just like a Virgo thing. And I said, you're fine. You haven't like sweater. He's like, well, I'm just used to doing that. Now, we've been married so long, he doesn't shower as often, but I kind of said, you're a little bit OCD there, and I joke him, because he's got a lot of Virgo, and I'm the same way about certain things. Virgos can be very perfectionistic and picky and about certain things. Like we like, it reminds me of that show Big Bang Theory, where that guy Sheldon always had his spot. He wanted to sit. That's my spot. Well, I'm like that. Like I have where I sit in the living room, and if anyone sits there, I feel awkward. Like that's my spot.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm used to sitting there. It's
I
kind
always
of
sit in the same spot too.
me too.
But I don't know if it is it a Virgo thing or others. And think about your husband growing up on a farm. Um, it sounds like he's more concerned about being clean and not so much the germs, because where are the germs coming from? Cows. I'd be more concerned about people germs.
Sure. I don't know how he's a nurse. I mean, and it's what's
Yeah.
interesting, because Virgo rules the health house, the 6th house in astrology. So a lot of them go into the medical field, even though they can be a little bit OCD, a little bit, a little
Yeah.
bit high, worried. They're the worrier about health stuff, but they usually go into medical field. They do, nurses, doctors, surgeons. A lot of them are Virgos. It's
Mm-hmm.
interesting.
I
Yeah.
never thought of that. And I'm thinking about a
Yeah.
friend of mine who's a prominent cosmetic surgeon
Oh
in
yeah.
the New York area. Again, a friend. His
Sure.
birthday is like a day or two away from mine. He's the same age as me.
Yeah.
Never thought of that. Wow.
Yeah. Virgo. Yeah. A lot of them go into that. They're natural. They're good at that. And they're drawn to that. That's 6th house, it's all about health and service, practical
Service.
service, having a practical job where you can help people that are sick. It's all 6th house energy. And if you have a lot of planets in the 6th house, I've seen people, I'm like, wow, are you in the medical field? They're like, yeah, I'm a doctor, or I'm a, DO or whatever, chiropractor, things like that.
Wow.
And my brother's got, it's funny, he's got 2 friends that are twins, and they grew up together and all through their life. And both of them became chiropractors. And I was laughing because they're both Virgos. They're both like September 2nd, their birthday. I'm like, oh, they're Virgos. They both went into the medical field. So I see it all the time,
Wow. And I'm a twin. I revealed that to you previously.
Yes,
And we're both Virgos and September 2nd.
that's cool. Yeah.
How about, we have a couple of minutes left. Next time we get together, I'd love
Sure.
to throw it out there and do compatibility between signs. So I'm going to say this now. Instant feedback, steve@gmail.com. If you reach out to us, you tell us the sign of you, your partner, potential partner, whatever, we can tell you if you're compatible. Instant feedback, steve@gmail.com. That being said, as a rule, can we briefly skim over earth signs, water signs, fire signs, where they usually are compatible?
Yes. So
Best compatibility.
yeah, the best is earth signs and water signs go together.
Give us examples, because I can never remember.
Yes. So the earth signs are Virgo, Taurus, and Capricorn. And so the water signs are Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. So if you think about it, Virgo and Pisces are polar opposites, and they're a compatible element. So they go good together. Scorpio and Taurus, polar opposites, water and earth, they go good together. Pisces, I already said Pisces and Virgo. Yeah, Cancer and Capricorn, polar opposites, they go good together. And then you have, so that's the water and the earth. And if think about nature, water flows easily on earth. They get along, right? They need each other, and they're compatible. And in nature, think of air and fire. Air helps fire grow. Water, if you throw water on fire, it's going to put it out. So you kind of, the basic elements is a real easy 101 way to know. And then the air signs are Libra, Gemini, and Aquarius. And the fire signs are Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. And each of them have a polar opposite. So Gemini and Sag, Libra and Aries, and Aquarius and Leo. And they always oppose each other in the sky. And they're always going to be a compatible element. So we always say, you know, earth and earth goes good together, earth signs, and then water signs go good together, and then of course earth and water, and then, you know, air and air is good, typically fire and fire, and then fire and air. But the other thing, that's basic sun sign compatibility, and we want to look at that, and then we can expand in and talk about when you want to look at the moon sign, because that can also, there's something called the sun moon flip, which I just had happen again. It's really cool. I see it in couples. It's when one partner's sun is like Gemini and the other partner's moon is Gemini. So how the one partner is emotionally, the other partner is outwardly. So we call that the sun moon flip. And that's a highly compatible relationship. Most partners that have been married forever, like 50, 60 years, when I do their charts, my grandparents, my parents, they're all sun moon flip. So they share, it's that flip of the energy. So like Leo's, like you're a Virgo sun, someone with the Virgo moon they would click with you. It's like how they are inwardly, you are outwardly. I just met a lady who's an Aries sun and I'm an Aries moon, and she's a Virgo moon and I'm a Virgo sun. So we're flip. And we really clicked immediately. I just really, you know, liked her. And I'm like, well, let me look at your chart. I'm like, oh, we're flip. You know, that's why. And so that's important too, to see the moon sign. And if you are, you know, share, because you have a similar energy when someone has the same moon sign.
But wouldn't you have to do their chart though to find out, you know, what am I? I'm a Virgo.
You're a Virgo sun with a Libra moon.
Virgo. So I'm a Virgo sun. You would need to do somebody would need to do their chart. Either you do it, or you said you can go to a couple of different websites.
Astro.com. And if people want, you know, you can even do, if you don't know what time you're born, it's easy to find out your moon sign, because you can just do like an online moon calculator that goes by the date, month, year of your birth and place, and they can tell you what sign the moon is in. Because the moon, we know the moon moves through each sign every 2 to 3 days. So if we kind of know what day you're born, we'll know pretty much what the moon sign is. And if you're on the cusp there, we might need a time, but you can get a basic moon sign on a calculator online. Just Google moon sign, then you'll know your sun and moon, you know, if they want to email you, and they could tell us, you know, their sun and moon or whatever, and we could do basic compatibility. It
basic
really
is the key word though. That I just want to say that, because you go layers deeper when you do a transit chart. This is just, you know, call it for fun. What about if I'm going to give you a date. Can you tell me what they would be?
Yeah, what
just as
day?
an example. July 12th. I can give you the year if you need that.
Yeah, what's the year?
1974.
1974. Okay, let me
so
look.
They would be this is just somewhat random, but I wanted to see how fast she does this and what how do you figure it out?
I'll pull it up right here. So we're going to do.
See, this is for me, and I think most people, out of our wheelhouse and realm of truly understanding. Like I come from the area of like, okay, Carmen, here's the info, give it to me. Like trying to figure it out. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's, you know, my memory, but I can't even remember things like you know, what's a moon sign, what's an air sign.
Yes. So this person is moon in Aries.
Moon in Aries.
Moon in Aries, sun in Cancer.
Sun in Cancer.
So this person, I could see you being very drawn to, just looking at your chart, because you have Mars in Cancer. So there's certain things we look at, like Mars and Venus are the passion and love planets. So, you know, we look at that too when I do compatibility. We call it a composite chart, a synastry chart, where we really get more into the relationship and how each of you affect each other. But basic compatibility I can do by sun and moon. That's like the most important. But we can go layers deeper to see, okay, you know, where's your Mars? Where's your Venus? Because that's going to show me also who you're going to be attracted to, or, you know, who you might think is, you know, where you have a bond. You know,
that doesn't necessarily mean it's the right connection, though.
No, because
right?
there's a lot. Sometimes I'll tell people like this lady I talked to the other day, she's always dated Scorpios because she's got Taurus rising and Scorpios on her seventh house cusp. Her first husband was a Scorpio, didn't work. She's drawn all these Scorpios she's dating. And I said, you need an earth sign. And I told her, because she has she has that Taurus rising, that moon in Virgo. I said, you need a Capricorn, you need a Taurus or a Virgo. And I said, actually, Virgo would be very good for you because that's sun moon flip. She goes, well, I'm going to start looking for that on the dating sites. That's what she told me. So I said, yeah, do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I remember being a kid and back in the day and be like, hey, what sign are you? You'd see it as a running joke. But now as I get older, and I laughed at it then, now as I get older, it's like, there's a reason people were doing that.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it was big then, and it's had a return. Think Age of Aquarius, that song was big back in the early 70s. And now here we are. We're in the Age of Aquarius.
Yes.
And we're approaching the fifth dimension.
Uh-huh.
And I, you put that all together, that's the group that did the song Age of Aquarius. So I think they were way ahead of us.
They were. And it's like, Aquarius rules astrology. Uranus rules astrology and Uranus rules Aquarius. So all of these, I think astrology is really going to get popular, a lot more popular than it even ever has been. And it really has. And I don't know, a lot. I never really met a lot of other astrologers. There's not a lot of people out there that do what I do, but there's so many people interested and they want to learn. So I'm doing a lot of basic, writing, teaching the basics to a lot of people that are like getting open-minded to this because they're like, wow, I know this works. I know my sign fits me and I want to understand why. And so I'm like, yeah, it's energy, just like anything.
What you do very, very well is make it understandable because I've had my charts done by astrologers. I'm like, what'd you say? I'm like, I want to understand it. There's two components. You want to know what to expect in your timeline of life, but you also want to understand it. And for me, talking to other astrologers many times, it's like, all right, I got the timeline. I don't even know what you said, but okay, thank you very much. You make it understandable with the background and very well, very clear. We're out of time. I just keep going here.
Goodbye. Yeah, I know, right? So next time, compatibility.
Yeah, absolutely. What your website is your name, right?
Yes, Turner-Schott.com. And people can go on there and do and sign up for my newsletter, and I'll send them a report, a fun little page report with their wheel that they're going to have, their date, year, time, place, and be patient with me because I had about 70 that came in that I'm catching up on. But you're welcome to go to astro.com too before we go live next Friday, and see where your sun and moon is at least. And then you can do basic compatibility. You can just go to moon astrology moon calculator. All it's going to need is your date of birth and year, and it's going to pretty much tell you where the moon was on the day and year you were born, and you'll know what your moon sign is. It's easier to get the moon sign than if you don't know your time.
Got it. Yeah, and a lot of us don't. I even talked to a friend. Was texting with him before. Told him that we were going to be on. And he didn't know. He was calling his father. He's trying, his father called the aunt. His mom has since passed away. I want to share Carmen Turner-Schott, and Schott is SCHOTT.com. Carmen, thank you so much for being with us once again.
Thank you. You have a good weekend. Hang in there. We'll make it. Mercury retrograde will be over soon.
True words never more spoken than that. Just hang in there. All right. We'll talk soon.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.